Hello everyone, welcome to video number 3 of Java Fundamentals. So in video number 2, we introduced variables, and today we are going to build further on variables. The first topic that we're going to cover today is called concatenation. So let's initialize two string variables. So string A All right, so I've initialized two string variables, apple and banana. And let's see what happens if we print out A plus B. So if you remember, if A and B are both integers and we add them together, then it would add them together. So for example, if A is an int and the value is 8 and B is an int and the value is 7, then it would print out 15. But since A and B are both strings, let's see what happens if we run this. All right, so it prints out apple, and then immediately afterwards, it prints out banana. So this is what concatenation is. So if you have a string plus a string, then it will print out the first string, and immediately afterward, it will print out the second string. So when does Java know when to add and when does it concatenate? Well, the answer is it depends on the variable types. So if you have two integers and you're adding them together, then it will add them. And if you have one or two strings, then it will concatenate. All right, so this is basically the idea of concatenation, and we can also use it to operate on strings. So let's suppose we do A plus equals and then a value. So if A was an integer, then if we do plus equals, then it would add whatever we have afterwards to A. So for example, if we have A plus equals 6, then if A is an int of value 5, then this will change A to 11. However, with concatenation, since A is a string, you can't do A plus equals 6, but you can do A plus equals banana. All right, and what this will do is it will concatenate what A already is and this right over here. So A is originally apple, and if you do this, then it will change A to apple banana. So let's print out and see if that's correct. All right, so it's correct. Now, what if you wanted to concatenate two integers together? All right, so I'm gonna initialize two ints. All right, so B is 2 and C is 7. So if you were to print out B plus C, then it will give out 9. But what if you wanted to print out 2 and then 7? In this case, you can do this. B plus, and then quotation marks, plus C. So what this will do is it will first add these two together. All right, since B is an int and this right over here is a string, it will concatenate. So by concatenating, it turns this whole thing into a string. All right, so now this string, after that, we need to add a C, and we know that a string plus an int, it will concatenate. So by doing this, Java will concatenate B and C instead of adding them. So let's print it out and see if that's correct. All right, it printed out 2 and then 7. So that's correct. All right, and now we're done with concatenation. So the next topic that we're going to get into is String.length. All right, so what this basically does is it returns the length of a string. How many characters are in the string? So for example, if we have a string apple, the length of this is 5 because you see it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters. All right, so go ahead and print it. So if you do apple surrounded by quotation marks, dot length, parentheses, then this will print out 5. And here's another example. Let's initialize a new variable called d, and we'll give it the value hello world. And the length of that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so if we were to do system.out.println then it should print out 12. All right, so for apple.length, it printed out 5, and for d.length, it printed out 12. All right, so that's correct. Now, dot length would only work on a string. So for example, if we did system.out.println 1 to 1 dot length, you know the length of 1 to 1 is 3. However, if you were to run this, it would give an error because this is not a string, it's an int. So let's run this. It gives an error. And the neat thing about Java is that it tells you where the error is. So we see it says main.java:18. So that tells you that the error is on line 18. So this is very neat because it can, if you ever have an error in your code, then you know where to fix it. So I'll just put a side note here. Doesn't work. And now we're getting into the topic of String.charAt and zero-based indexing. Okay, so first of all, String.charAt, it tells you the character at a certain location in a string. So here's an example. So apple, if you were to do apple, if you were to ask yourself, what is the third character of apple? It's this right over here. So it's P. So the third character of apple is P. And then the fifth character of apple, that's this, is E. The first character of apple is A, and so on. And what zero-based indexing is the first character has index 0, the second character has index 1, and so on. So this might not make sense to you. It's normal for a new programmer to not understand why zero-based indexing is used in Java and many other languages. But as you continue programming, it will start to make more and more sense. Java does this to make it simple. So if we wanted to find the first character in apple, then we need to do apple.char at and then 0, not 1, because of zero-based indexing. And this will print out A. Okay, so here, let's get rid of this so we don't get an error, and then run this and see what it prints out. All right, so it printed out A for this statement. And now, so let's try another example. So the length of apple is 5. So the highest index that you can have is 4. 4 is the index of the last character. So now, what if we were to do apple.char@5? There is no character at index 5 because the length of apple is only 4. So if we were to run this, it will give something called an index out of bounds exception. So let's see what that is. All right, so it says string index out of range 5. And then once again, Java makes it simple by telling you where the error is. So it says main.java:21. So you know which line to find the error in and fix it. All right, so now if you wanted to print out here, let's first initialize a new variable. Right, I'm just gonna call it, I'm gonna give it the value line. If you wanted to print out the last character in a variable, then you would use String.charAt and String.length together. So, all right, so we want to print out the last character of the variable e. So we do e.charAt, and then the index is the length of e minus 1, because remember for apple it has length 5, so the last index is 4. For lime, the length is 4, so the index of the last character is 3. So we do e.charAt, e.length, parentheses, minus 1. All right, so it prints out e. So we're about to get into the last topic for this video, which is for loops. But before we get into it, you need to know what conditions are. So conditions, they always return a Boolean. They always return true or false. So here are some examples of conditions. 2 equal signs means equal to. So if the number before the equal sign and the number after are equal, then it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. And here are some other conditions. So exclamation mark and then an equal sign means not equal to, and then all of these. So here are some examples. 5 is less than 7 would return true because 5 is less than 7. 2 is greater than or equal to 12 would return false because 2 is not greater than or equal to 12. And then 7 is not equal to 8, that would return true because 7 is not equal to 8. So here are for loops. So first, the syntax. So how you write them. First, you write the word for, and then parentheses. You have an initialization. An example of that would be int a equals 1, semicolon, a condition. An example of that would be a is less than or equal to 5, semicolon, an increment or decrement. And a++ is an example. All right, close parentheses, and then curly brackets, and then you have a code. So what for loops do is the first time they run, they initialize a variable. So the first time it runs, it would set a to 1. And then when it finishes this code, it performs the increment or decrement. And then afterwards, it checks the condition. If the condition is true, then it will run again. And it will keep on running the code inside over and over again, performing the increment or decrement each time until the condition is false. So this code right over here, it will output 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on different lines because the first time it runs, a is equal to 1, and 1 is indeed less than or equal to 5. That's true. So it runs this code. It prints out a, which is 1. And then when it finishes, it performs this. So it increases a by 1. So a is now 2, and 2 is still less than or equal to 5. That's true. So it will run again. It will print out a again, and a is 2. And then when it finishes, it increases a to 3. 3 is still less than or equal to 5. So it runs the code again. And then it will print out 4 and then 5. And then after it prints out 5, it will increase a to 6. And then 6 is not less than or equal to 5. So this condition is now false. So then the for loop stops. All right, here's another example. So for int x equals 10, x is greater than 0, x minus equals 3. So this code right over here, it will output 10, 7, 4, and 1 on different lines, because the first time it runs, x is equal to 10, and 10 is greater than or equal, 10 is greater than 0, so it runs this code, it prints out x, which is 10, and then after it finishes, it decreases x by 3, so x is now 7. 7 is greater than 0, so it runs this code again. So it prints out x, which is 7, and then it decreases x by 3 again. So x is now 4. 4 is still greater than 0, so it prints out 4. And then 1, x is decreased to 1, so 1 is still greater than 0, so it prints out 1. And then after that, it decreases x by 3 again. So x is now -2, and -2 is not greater than 0. So the for loop stops after this. So here's a practice problem. How many times does this for loop iterate? If you want some time to think, then pause the video here. And here is the solution. So the answer is 4 times, because the first time it iterates, I is equal to 8. And then the second time it iterates, well, first it increases I by 2, so it's now 10. All right, 10 is less than 16, so it runs. And then after it finishes, it sets I to 12, and 12 is still less than 16. And then afterwards, I becomes 14. So then after I is 14, after it finishes the 4th iteration, it increases I by 2 again. And so I is now 16, and 16 is not less than 16. So after the 4th iteration, the for loop stops. So the answer is 4 times. Now here is an optional exercise. Print out the first 10 rows of the triangular multiplication table using for loops. So this is 1 times 1. This is 2 times 1. This is 2 times 2. And then 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and then so on. I'll give you a quick hint. You need to use a for loop inside of another for loop. So if you want to try this exercise, and pause the video here and then keep watching for the solution. Here is the solution. So you need a for loop. So the first row, you want to print out 1 times 1. So you start out with 1. So just initialize a equals 1. And then you want to print out 10 rows. So you want a is less than or equal to 10. And then each time you increase a by 1. And then you need another for loop inside of that for loop. So int b equals, and then you also start out with 1 because, like, for example, the second row, you want to print 2 times 1 and 2 times 2. The third row, you want to print out 3 times 1, 3 times 2, and 3 times 3. And then each time you b goes up to and including a. So the condition is b is less than or equal to a. So if a is 3, then b will first become 1, and then it will become 2, and then 3. So that prints out the third row of the multiplication table. All right, so we want to print out a times b, and then afterward you want to add a space so it doesn't become messy. And then after the inside for loop finishes, you want to start a new line, so you can just do this. All right, it prints out exactly what we wanted. So the topics covered today were concatenation, String.length, String.charAt, and for loops. At this point, you have enough information to make some pretty interesting programs. So I encourage you to experiment and make your own programs. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more educational content. And that's it for this video. So I'll see you in video number 4.